Thank you everyone for attending this evening, and welcome to BioFlorida, Sarasota, Bradenton. This is our third event, and I think we're on a roll. We had 60 at our first event, 70, and I'll let for the attendance speaks for itself tonight. We're very pleased that you're here. We have a lot to cover this evening. My name's Michael Van Butzel. I work for DPR Construction. That's my day job. My real job is working for Nancy Bryan, the CEO of BioFlorida. I'm on the State Board of Directors of BioFlorida. I started the Tampa chapter, and when Nancy became the president, the CEO of the statewide organization of BioFlorida, I said, we simply can't have you live in Sarasota and not have a chapter. So what we really found is it's very difficult for a lot of people to make it up to Tampa for events that started at 5:30, which really meant that they had to leave mid-afternoon and probably wouldn't get home to 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. And so we kind of took a test with an event at Ross Camp Institute. We had a remarkable success, and we're going to continue with a Sarasota Bradenton chapter for BioFlorida. And tonight we have a program that's going to be covering the legislative update. We're going to be introducing Greg Black, who is a member of Met's Husband and Dotton, who is the representative of the firm that represents BioFlorida in Tallahassee and statewide. It's one of the benefits of BioFlorida. It's meaningful, and he'll cover some of the things that he does in his role as our advocate. We are sponsored tonight by the Florida High-Tech Corridor. The High-Tech Corridor covers that area through Central Florida and includes the University of Florida, no priority meant to mean any importance, University of South Florida, and University of Central Florida. They also include the participation of the EDCs in the central area, several state colleges, and they all work together to look at how do we collaborate on research? How do we work together to maximize the research that occurs in this area? Which is one of the priorities of BioFlorida, is discovery care, and how do we commercialize the new research that is found on the benches, and how do we get it at the bedside, how do we get it in the stores so it becomes useful to the entire populace. So BioFlorida is an extremely important industry association. We'll hear more about that from Nancy as she addresses some of the priorities and the other events that we'll have throughout the year. We have a double chair model for our chapters. We have a business chair, we have a scientific chair. That way it ensures that our events do not become vendor-oriented only. At the same time, they don't become scientific to the point where you're asleep in 10 minutes. We have a 10-minute rule up here. I'm the Sergeant Major, and so we try to keep our events going quickly and smoothly. And we'd like to again thank the Florida High-Tech Corridor for their exclusive sponsorship. They'll also be sponsoring this event and then the next one in Tampa, which will be at Johns Hopkins Medicine, talking about what's next on their research program. But with that, I'd like to introduce the co-chair, the scientific co-chair of BioFlorida, Sarasota and Bradenton, James Humphrey, Ross Camp Institute.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. The advantage of these meetings are, look at the person next to you. There's talent there. There may be a resource that you're looking for. You might not know it, but talk to them. This is a great opportunity. For years, we all thought, oh, I'm the only science company in the area. That's very much untrue. Use the EDCs. They're there, they're a resource. Tonight, we're privileged to have Senator Galvano and Representative Stubbe here. We're also honored that, I'm personally honored, I think the service they give to us is tremendous. I think they're some of the best representatives of the people in the House and Senate in Florida. Now, Senator Galvano was the founding chair of the Biotech Caucus in the state of Florida. An advocate for the STEMS program. These are our future employees. Representative Stubbe, I know, he just got promoted. The P3 bills, the public-private partnerships, they're his passion. These are important things to all of us in industry. We appreciate your service and thank you for it. And please, tell us what happened in the legislature and House.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, James. Thank you for having me, and of course my esteemed colleague. I love this hall here. It feels like a real political meeting. Sounds like we're going to leave here and go dump tea in a harbor or something like that. Let me first start by saying it's a real privilege to serve with Representative Stubbe. He's been an equal advocate in biotechnology and making sure the state is focused in the right direction and doing what it needs to do to enhance the opportunities in so many fields connected with biotechnology. You know, for me, we had an awakening after 9/11, and I heard it described very well by then Lieutenant Governor Brogan. And he was talking about the state of Florida. He said the state of Florida has a magnet that goes all around the border and then a swath through the center with I-4, and you have Walt Disney World and the other theme parks and attractions. And the whole world comes to Florida for those reasons. And that helped us become complacent because the world was coming to us, because we were the #1 destination in the United States and around the world. In addition to that attractive magnet around the coast, we had the citrus industry, which was the spine of our state, and in many ways still is the spine of our state, agriculture. But then 9/11 occurred, and in the days following 9/11, as Brogan described it, you could go to International Drive and lay down comfortably and not worry about getting run over. In just a matter of hours, we were told that our #1 economic driver was gone, that it could be impacted. It wasn't impenetrable. It was something that was vulnerable, and that we couldn't just put all our eggs in that basket. The same is true with agriculture. As important as it is, and as important as it is to continue to support agriculture, we have challenges there too. You know, my Senate district starts in Hillsborough County, goes through Manatee County, DeSoto, Hardy, Highlands, Glades, and Charlotte. And so most of my district geographically is not on the coast. And so I see every day the challenges that these inland counties are dealing with in terms of greening with citrus and the other challenges that they have in terms of economic opportunity. And it's very clear that you have to have diversity in an economy for us to work and provide and have a future as a state. And that's really the backdrop from which I took my interest in biotechnology. And as we looked at the opportunities within Florida and the industry that was already there, we realized that we could do better as a legislature, that we could come together as a caucus, share ideas, look at opportunities, and make sure that we were taking advantage of those opportunities, not just from a policy standpoint, but also from a funding standpoint. And I think we've seen great progress in that regard, and it's been building ever since. And so fast forward to this past session, now I'm in the Senate and watching or enjoying the progress that we have made in terms of supporting biotechnology. And I'm proud to tell you out of the gate here tonight that out of a $77 billion budget, $93.6 million was dedicated specifically to biotechnologies. And so I'm very pleased about that. And a good reason for that is the advocacy of people like yourselves in this room and the recognition of the importance of it, the formation of chapters like you just talked about today. And of course, Nancy, your leadership at the top makes a huge difference. And your representatives in Tallahassee do a great job too of making sure we're reminded. But these are dollars that have gone into programs, to research across the board that will help enhance the opportunities within the field, but also create jobs and opportunity. And that's very important. I chair the education appropriations in the Florida Senate. And in the Senate, as it is in the House, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it covers everything from pre-K all the way through the university system. And it hasn't always been like that. It used to be K through 12, and then the university system, the state colleges, sometimes with one or the other, usually with higher education. But because of the foundation that we began to build in terms of recognizing the need for diversity, the need for opportunity, and the need for creating jobs, we have put it all together and have now a new focus on making sure that at every level of the education process, we are providing a service to the students such that when they get out, there's a meaningful opportunity, a meaningful career. And that plays right into what you all are doing with BioFlorida. The STEM programs that we talked about, the CAPE programs, career and professional education, performance funding at the college and university levels, looking at really scrutinizing what degrees are coming out, who's getting jobs, what those jobs are paying, and making sure that we are leading the nation in that regard is commonplace now in Tallahassee. And if you look at the education budget, you'll see that so much of it is tied to performance, and performance in the sense of the institutions themselves have to have skin in the game and have to produce so that we create a workforce for the people you all represent, and opportunity not just for that workforce, but for businesses that want to come here and prosper. The other thing I would tell you is important to what you're after in terms of creating and building the biotech industry in Florida is how we treat our businesses in general. And if you look at where we were this session and how we came out of it, you'll see that once again we've reduced taxes, about $500 million in taxes and fees. Now, not all of those are tied directly to business, but it creates that atmosphere of destination, not just for tourists, but for business. And then again, regulation and how we can look and identify what regulations are maybe not necessary, maybe just some obstacle, red tape obstacle that could be removed, or an edge that could be beveled so that businesses and people who want to grow existing businesses or share ideas and collaborate can do so without having to deal unnecessarily with government. And so those are the themes that have come out of this session, that have been building through the past sessions, and hopefully will continue into the future as we start committee hearings, just a few months. Well, not that quick this time because it's an election year. And so we can wait until at least November. Still just a few months. We never stop working. Someone said, "How do you like your time off?" And I'm like, "I'll tell you when I get there." But it is important, again, that we look at the big picture in terms of what the Florida economy is going to look like. And so I encourage you all to continue to be advocates, to continue to come out on a Wednesday evening and share ideas. And I know not everybody's even in biotechnologies here. I know we had someone from SunTrust Bank here. I met someone, he goes, "I work for SunTrust Bank." I said, "So do I. I make that payment every month." But again, it's a pleasure to be here. I will continue to support your efforts and call on me as a resource, and I look forward to our Q&A. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. And one of the great things about this area and the legislative delegation that you have is the synergy that we have and how well we work together. We're very lucky to have the type of relationships we have in the House and the Senate in this area. And it's a pleasure to work with the Senator and all the hard work that he's done on many different fronts, both when he was in the House and now in the Senate. First of all, it's exciting to be in a place where there's so many great things and companies involved in the biotech industry. And they asked me to talk a little bit about the public-private partnership bill that I worked on last year, and I had another P3 bill this year. Last year we did, and let me back up and tell you why we felt it was necessary for the state of Florida to get involved in a statute for public-private partnerships, because it's not a new idea, it's not a new concept, although it's developing and more public entities are taking advantage of the ability to use P3s to fund infrastructure projects. But the real impetus behind it was we had very large investors, say from out of the country, Spain and France, that wanted to put a lot of money in big projects in the state of Florida. And we as a state did not have a statute that recognized the importance of public-private partnerships in our state. So that money was going to other states like Texas, who has a P3 statute, and other states doing big infrastructure projects. So that was one of the reasons of people that came to me and said, we need some agreement from the state, some recognition from the state that you as a state will recognize public-private partnerships as a funding mechanisms for public entities. You know, there's projects like doing a high-speed rail from Miami to Orlando, and those investors want to know that if they do a public-private partnership with the Department of Transportation, that the state's going to recognize those type of funding mechanisms. So we did a bill last year. It was very successfully supported through the House and the Senate. I think it was almost unanimously supported in the House and the Senate. And the governor thought it was so important, the commitment to these different types of projects to use P3s to fund them, that he had a bill signing ceremony at Miami-Dade College, because Miami-Dade College was looking to do a big P3 project for one of their buildings there. And we have seen quite an influx of projects because of the bill. And I'll give you an example. My firm is very involved in public-private partnerships, and there's USF and several other universities are looking to building research facilities using a P3 model to do it. Because as the Senator will tell you, chairing education appropriations, the amount of PICO dollars that we have had historically to fund infrastructure capital improvements for our universities is very, very low, colleges and universities. So to be able to utilize P3s to be able to fund these infrastructure projects is good for the taxpayer, it's good for the public entity, and the constituents get to use these projects before they ever would be able to do that. And so we did the bill on public entities last year, and Seminole State College has utilized it. Escambia County was waiting for the bill to come through. They would come to every hearing to support the bill because they had an $8 million road project that they wanted to get through a P3 because they didn't have the money to do it. I mean, what better way to have an influx of private dollars to create jobs not at taxpayer expense, because you're using private investment through a comprehensive agreement. They get paid back over a series of years, whatever their investment is, to build a public project that the public owns. So it's a great investment into our state. And then this year we did a bill specifically on the universities. They felt like they didn't have the ability to use P3s based on the statute we passed last year. So this year I did a bill specifically for the universities on public-private partnerships so they could take advantage of it as well. I believe we passed it through a couple committees in the House, and then through the process we weren't able to get it through. But we're going to work on that again next year. I've committed to do that again next year. And one of the other things that was tied to that was we had to get a public records exemption for these unsolicited proposals. One of the biggest parts of the P3 legislation last year was the ability for any type of investor or group or builder or developer to come to a local government and say, you know what, I think you need a parking garage, or I think you need a retail space, or I think it'd be great for you to build a high-speed rail from Miami to Orlando, and hey, I will fund that. Here's an unsolicited proposal for me to do that. But there's no protection for them prior to the bill last year that laid out the process for that. And right now there's no public records exemption. If I am a developer and I submit that proposal to the public entity, somebody else, one of my competitors, could come in and grab it. So we were very concerned about that and wanted to make sure that it was as competitive as it could be. So we had a public records exemption on that as well. So we'll look to file that again next year, and I'm hoping that through the process we'll be able to get it passed. One of the things that was on your list of important issues before the state of Florida is a bill that I sponsored to repeal the commercial sales tax on, or the sales tax on commercial leases. Anybody that owns or doesn't own, anybody that rents commercial space for your small business. And I'll give you an example. It was kind of interesting. I had breakfast this morning at the breakfast house across the street on Fruitville. And she found out through the person I was having breakfast with that I'm a legislator. And the first thing out of her mouth was, you know, I went and paid my real estate taxes. And then I found out that I have to pay sales tax on my lease that I pay real estate taxes on. That's double taxation. I said, well, it just so happens that I sponsored the bill to repeal that. It didn't get through the process, but we're working on it. So we got it through the House, and we're trying to get that through the process. I think if you want to be able to create jobs, do you know we're the only state in the country that taxes sales tax on commercial leases? There's one other municipality in the country that does it, and I'll give you one guess as to who it is. New York City. And that's not the municipality that I want to be compared to. So what better way to allow these small businesses, allow them to grow, allow them to hire more employees, to repeal that tax? And my bill did that over a period of 6 years. It repealed it 1% a year, because right now it's about a $1.5 to $1.7 billion revenue stream to the state, which obviously we can't take that all in one piece. So we did it over a series of years. And Bells is local here, the Sarasota-Bradenton area. Do you know how much that repeal of that one tax would mean to Bells? $14.3 million a year that they pay just on sales tax on their commercial lease space. Publix is committed to me that they would open 2 or 3 more stores and hire 350 employees if that tax went away, because it's like a $26 million cost to them just on sales tax on the commercial spaces that they rent. So those are the things that we're all working on. We funded the Alzheimer's research this year. That was a big support on an issue for your organization. And with that, kind of gave you some highlights. I'd be more than willing, and both of us would love to take any questions that you have. So thank you very much for having us.
If the economy continues in Florida to grow the way it has, these are issues that will see more dollars. I mean, we recognize it's important. I think it was Richter's bill, wasn't it? In the
House, it was Hudson.
Yeah, Richter and Hudson, and the bill was widely supported. The funding was supported, and you bring up a good point about the population in Florida and why these issues are important.
And one of the other things that we talked about earlier that's important, the legislature made a conscious decision to actually take out the peer review process, which I know a lot of you are going, wait, why? You know, because you're thinking science needs to be peer reviewed. The purpose being there's a surcharge that the Department of Health pays a third-party group to peer review. So they actually made sure that the $3 million is going all to research and not taking a cut off the top. So,
no, you make a good point, and I think if you go through and look at the list of projects and entities that were funded through that 93, you'll actually see more of what you're talking about, that it's not just all being front-loaded on a handful of existing universities. We recognize that the answers are often found in places that no one expected, maybe somewhere in a community, somewhere within the state. And so it's an open process to advocate for the dollars. The peer review, I think, being removed will probably open up more opportunity in that regard too, and we'll just have to continue to be cognizant to make sure we're spreading it where it will be most effective.
and I think to your point too, I mean, I know that typically legislation, any funding issue, and personally I experienced it this year with the veto, unfortunately, and on another project, but it's a multi-year project, and those, you know, the Moffitts and Shanes of the world have etched away at getting what they're trying to get, and make it available to other researchers that are connected with the university or the facility. One important one to look at would be the Institute for Commercialization. That's funded if you're tied to a university, but not necessarily, you know, a university product. That's one to look at. And then also there's $71 million in and enterprise Florida funding and DEO funding for any type of seed, state economic enhancement development incentives. So those dollars are available, and I'm happy to give you the resources to reach out to the right people.
And that was one of the functions of the Biotech Caucus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Senator Gavano makes a very good point. That was one of the functions of the Biotech Caucus, which typically we'd meet during BioFlorida Day, and host everybody, have the Biotech Caucus come in, meet, and kind of do this, have this opportunity for them to present, go Q&A, and we've moved a little bit to a one member for the group model, and we switch back and forth kind of just year to year depending on what it is.
I want to give you a little bit of a backdrop to come back to the increase in funding. One of the challenges in my first 2 years in the House, I had the opportunity to sit on healthcare appropriations, and this past year I was on the This past 2 years I was on the full appropriations committee. When I came into the House, in the first 2 years in the legislature for me, we had to cut $6 billion from the state's budget because of the economic circumstance that we were in. A lot of that came from the healthcare appropriations because healthcare appropriations subcommittee is the largest subcommittee as it relates to funding because of Medicaid and the other healthcare related programs. So this year was the first year that we actually had positive growth and positive numbers to be able to do the things like the Alzheimer's research. And I think, as what Senator Galvano said, you will continue to see an increase as the economy improves. There was the statistic I saw, 90,000 or 90 million people or some crazy number of people visited Florida last year. We're growing at a pace where we're continuing to grow as a state. Doc stamps are going up, sales tax revenues are going up. So as we get more revenue to the state, we're able to do the things we did this year and do $500 million in tax cuts, but also fund new programs like Alzheimer's research and continue these fundings. And I'll say this too, to the point of the gentleman's question before about other types of folks getting funding. We have a delegation meeting every year. I sit on Manatee County, and I represent Manatee and Sarasota County. And every county has a delegation meeting where we ask citizens and groups to come before us and do requests of whatever funding you may have. And Senator Galvano added it up at the Manatee County delegation, and I think it was, $680 million in requests just for Manatee County. And there was only $850 million available. Yeah, halfway through the meeting. But I say that in saying, come to us and make us aware of these other projects that might be out there. So as we do have a more money in the budget to be able to do some of these innovative research type projects, then we could do it. So I would encourage you definitely, and I know both the senator and I have a very open door policy to anybody that wants to talk to us on any issues. But as we get closer into, and like the senator said, there's not really much of a break, but we have some. But because we're in a campaign year right after the elections in November, we'll run right into organizational sessions. People will be chairmen of different committees. We completely reorganize the leadership in the House and the Senate. So that's a good time prior to that, to start coming and talking to us about things that you think are important for this state. And I can see an increase in the funding to the Alzheimer's. The hardest part is getting that initial funding and then being able to come back and just grow it over the years. And if the economy continues to improve, I think we'll be able to do that. I had the opportunity to vice chair actually Health Innovation Subcommittee this year. And one of the things that everything that we looked at was how can we be more innovative in healthcare? And one of the proposed committee bills that I carried was a recovery care suite legislation that a number of other states have done for the growing amount of replacement surgeries, knee replacement surgeries, shoulder surgeries that can be done in an outpatient type scenario. Right now, your ambulatory surgical centers can only keep people before the stroke of midnight. So I'll give you an example. I had a knee replacement surgery because of injuries I had in the military. If I would have had that surgery done at an ASC, an ambulatory surgical center, I would have had to have been gone from the ASC by the stroke of midnight that night, regardless of whether I went into surgery at noon or 4 p.m. I had a bill that would have made that a 24-hour period. So if you did have your surgery at 4 p.m., then you could stay at the ASC till 3:59 the next day and then be released. And then it created a new innovative approach for recovery care suites. So instead of having the surgery at a hospital, you could have the surgery done at an ASC, and then you could be moved to recovery care suites that would be adjacent to that and do your recovery there and be gone whenever you as a patient could be gone. That legislation passed the House, I think it was like 117-6. So we look at those innovative type things, and if you look at the cost to patients on the comparison between having, let's say, a knee replacement in a hospital versus an ASC in a recovery care suite, it's almost half. The average cost of a knee replacement is between $40,000 and $60,000 to have your knee replaced or your hip replaced. If you do that in ASC, it's between $12,000 and $25,000. So the cost to patient is less, the cost to your insurance company is less, and the patient care, if you look at infection rates, the infection rates at ASCs are much lower than they are at the hospitals. So the patient experience and all of that are more, and you just look at the numbers and you can see it. And so those are the type of things that we try to look at to try to breed more innovative things into our healthcare industry. So I'll say that as it relates to the healthcare.
Yeah, and as it relates to the association, I mean, the association is very mindful of big and small, and doesn't try to pick winners or losers based on size or involvement with the association, much like, you know, they may represent certain counties, but I mean, you represent colleges and universities on as a chairman all across the state. So they may be representative of this area, but we're trying to represent the entire constituency, not just big or small.
And just one quick footnote, we're dealing with taxpayer dollars. So we're going to look for effectiveness and efficiency too. And so that really is the main driver. What is the potential outcome? What's the history, and are we going to be effective with the dollars that were sent to us that are your dollars? These institutions are called public institutions for a reason, because they're funded publicly. You have private institutions that are generated by private individuals, oftentimes, most of the time, for a very specific reason of generating profit. And so when you talk about taxpayer dollars, you know, there are a lot of businesses in the state of Florida. You know, there are many other industries that go way beyond biotechnology. And every industry in Florida would love to partake in the state tax dollars that are sent. But we have to start with what are our public dollars, and then through mechanisms that are established by statute or otherwise, then look at where dollars may find their way into the private sector for the purposes of economic development, or in some instances, in order to further a research cause or some other initiative like that. So all good stuff. I'll take it back with me, and I'm sure Representative Stubbe will as well. Thank you very much. One last comment before I leave. Governor Rick Scott really stepped up as well, and has been a leader in terms of supporting the initiatives that you all do. And when I talk about dollars in the budget, I'm talking about post-signing dollars, which means I'm talking about dollars that were supported and not vetoed by the governor. Always good to see you.
People that we heard today are strong supporters of the life sciences in Florida. And I want you to know, on behalf of BioFlorida, we really appreciate that support. This was a very, very good legislative session. Not only did we achieve most of the priorities of BioFlorida, but it was also funded at levels that were significantly higher than the previous years. So I want to just say thank you so much. We're definitely on the right direction. Now, there's been a lot of questions about BioFlorida and how we can help support. So here's my advice, but I need your help to do this. So we have a government affairs committee, and in that government affairs committee, every year we define the priorities for the state. And then it is those priorities that we actually, with the help of our lobbying group, and you heard from Greg Black, have the opportunity to communicate our priorities to the key legislators in the state. It's a very effective system. I would urge everyone here to get engaged and actually have good discussions on what those priorities are. I mean, what I heard loud and clear today is that the funding levels are good, but we need to understand how we're going to better support the smaller companies. And I think that's really true, and that's true throughout the whole state. So let's make that a big objective for us for this year. So with that, I just want to do one little reminder, and that's just to remind everybody about the annual conference. It's scheduled from October 12th to October 14th in Fort Lauderdale of this year. So everywhere I go, I always ask, how many people here are aware of the conference? How many people went last year? The conference was in Tampa last year. How many people are planning on going this year in Fort Lauderdale? So for those of you who are unaware, this is our biggest event of the year. It's our real opportunity to bring together science, business, and public policy. During the conference, what we do is we discuss the recent trends in pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, bioag, as well as medical devices. We also celebrate and recognize the innovation and achievements within Florida, which you see even within Sarasota how significant it is. To learn about the state is even more so. And then the other thing that we do during this conference, and we do this for the emerging companies, is we give these companies the opportunity to present their business plans and their requests for funding in front of a panel of investors. We include both angels and and VCs, and we try to match it to the right companies. So this is something we take very seriously. You should see the application coming out within the next 3 weeks. July 1st is my deadline, so if you don't see it by July 1st, you can come back to me and say, where is it? But this is a process we take very seriously. It's just one thing that we do, but it's probably the biggest thing that we do for the small companies throughout the state. So I hope everybody here gets engaged. And then the last thing I want to do is just acknowledge these two gentlemen right here. You know, I take a look at this room and I'm so impressed because what I see is that you've really brought together the life science community in the area. In the audience, we've got the leading companies in the area. We've got the academic institutions. We have the research institutions. We have the EDCs, and we had our lawmakers. It's the combination of all of these groups that are really going to help to build the life sciences in the area. So congratulations for doing a fantastic job. With that, I don't want to keep you from the networking.
Hang on. This is the best part for me. Nancy talked about our leadership, but we also have a number of individuals that assist us with this. Now let me just quickly mention them and recognize them. We have Jose from Morgan Stanley, if you'd please stand or wave, or here we go. We have Jason from Adams Reese. Jason helped make the arrangements for the hub for this evening. We have Joe McGill from the Sarasota EDC. Katie Walthrop from New College of Florida. And she and New College of Florida will be the host for our next event. And then we also have Jennifer from Roe Brady behind the... They all help a great deal for every event. A lot of work goes into this. Speaking of that, we talked about getting back to networking. One of the things that we do here is we connect the dots and we make the links. So I want to talk to you about, I think, a really special link, and is that I'd like to introduce Charles Bond. This is the newest intern at Ross Camp Institute. Congratulations. Charles has a friend by the name of Stephen Grace who's been attending these events, has attended all of these events, is a friend and colleague of mine. He's with Northwest Mutual. He called up and said, can you help Charles find an internship? So what did I naturally do? 1-800 to the right, Jamie, do you have any ideas? This afternoon, Charles interviewed for his position, and they have come to terms, and he'll be starting very soon. So congratulations. Here is a new individual, a new student, taking advantage of the business that is here in this community. The other recognition I like to have is, at our event last time, we have two ladies from State College of Florida. We had Megan Orlando, who talked about her student career and her ultimate career. Tonight we have Ann Levingood. You'll recognize Ann because she and Megan are sitting at the registration downstairs, table downstairs. But I would like to have Ann come up and just take a few minutes to talk about her studies, what she hopes to do and be, and when she does graduate, how she's going to become a member of BioFlorida. Ann.
First of all, I'd like to thank BioFlorida for coming together here in the Sarasota-Bradenton area. I think that together we can do a lot, and I think that change comes from the bottom up. It's great to work with lawmakers, but when I look out at the crowd, I see people that every day get up and they're working hard and they have a dream. And they have things that they want to do, and they want to change the world and make it a better place. And that's what science is about. Science is about making the world a better place. We have vaccines, we have antibiotics, that's in the healthcare. On the technology side, I drove here in a car. I have air conditioning in my house. Science makes life better. And I see the passion that people have for it. I specifically want to thank Dr. Thomas. He has, and all of the Natural Science Department, Dr. Thomas, Professor Feilsticker, Dr. Warwick. The people at State College of Florida, they have passion, they have experience, they have knowledge. And that's the reason that I signed up to the biotechnology program, because I do want to make a difference. And they have the knowledge that I need to be able to do that. And I appreciate them reaching back and helping the next generation up and to coming up with new solutions to help people live a better life. And that's the reason that I'm here. Personally, I've had family members that have had health issues, and so that's kind of a thing that's really up there for me. But at the end of the day, what I really want to do is make a difference. So if I can make other people's lives better through science, then that's what I support.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank the Florida High-Tech Corridor for helping us sponsor this evening. They are the exclusive sponsor for this tonight, and they help make it possible, but everybody made it possible. Jamie, any last comments?
Just thank everyone for coming, and I'll see you at the next meeting.
Very good. The next meeting is going to be in September. We do want to thank everyone for coming this evening. I think we are very fortunate to have the elected representatives that we have working for us. They work really hard. So again, our thanks to them and their families, and we stand adjourned.
I am part of the leadership team of BioFlorida, the Sarasota Manatee chapter. We are on our second event here tonight, and it's part of a launch to develop BioFlorida, biosciences, life sciences in the Sarasota Manatee area. After early investigation, it turns out there's quite a bit of innovation and activity in the area, and we are attempting to bring that innovation together and help the companies learn from each other and further the innovation in the area. It is a new venture in the sense that the chapter had not been previously active, and some of the members that have homes, for lack of a better term, in the area were involved with BioFlorida statewide, but there was no local chapter to participate in, including, for example, Ross Camp and Jamie Humphreys, who is the director on the sciences side. So it is a new venture in that respect, but there have been a number of entities in the area that are in the life sciences field and are participating in the BioFlorida level. Yeah, I think it actually, the answer to the question is maybe twofold. One is on the side of the bio companies themselves, which runs the gamut of various medical devices, innovation companies, anything touching the life sciences really is within that category. And those companies often could use the assistance of their peers to benefit from the knowledge that those peers have already gained for those that are ahead of them. Or simply to share ideas and innovation amongst each other, which promotes further innovation for all. On the other side is the community as a whole. The community as a whole really maybe doesn't know what an asset they have in this industry, insofar as it, while we have great companies in the field, it doesn't seem to be fully recognized the number of companies truly doing this and the amount of innovation that is actually in the Sarasota-Manatee area in the life sciences field. I think that is true in some respects. I think maybe not in all respects. For example, Rosscamp is doing true research, and there are a number of other entities that are on the true research side. All the way up to commercialization. When you talk about ventures, you're talking about commercializing an idea that may have been developed by someone else or by that person some time ago. And there's a fair amount of that as well on the medical device side and some of the other medical areas in the area. And so there's a pretty healthy mix of both true research, true innovation, and commercialization, and all those have their own struggles. And I would be lying if I tried to say I had the numbers with me, but I think it's been shown that the life sciences field, the industry, provides jobs at a very high-paying level, intellectual type positions, and is a driving force for the state as far as future of the economy. And it is a different economy than Florida has traditionally relied upon, that being vacationers and real estate. And so as we try to diversify our economy, I think it's a great avenue to truly grow. I do. In fact, as we've gone down this road a bit and tried to identify the assets we currently have in the Sarasota-Manatee area, we found that we have a lot of industry knowledge in the area, and some of it hasn't been utilized in the area. It is utilized perhaps somebody who's more of a vacationer here, or a part-timer, or a retired person who's living here but doing business in other areas, but has interest in doing business here, lives here obviously on purpose. And so I think there's enough, there's definitely enough of this intellectual asset side that we could definitely become a major corridor for innovation. Well, I think on the state level, I think health sciences, life sciences is going to be a major player going forward, and I think everyone throughout the state is starting to recognize that. I think the start of the local chapter is indicative of the fact that people in the area are recognizing that, and I think that in the next 3 to 5 years, really what I expect to see locally is sort of a coalescing of folks getting together, working together, starting to understand that there is this core group of companies that have the same business areas, interests, intellectual assets that they can learn to share with each other and share some of the burdens of development, which is a big deal in this industry. Folks have perhaps space in a lab or something else that could be utilized by another entity that is in need of that, and so that sharing could really help move things forward.
Well, we believe that BioFlorida is an essential part of our business because the medical community in Florida needs to have basically a central place where companies can network and learn about other medical companies. We have a division that specifically caters to medical devices and designing products. And so having at our fingertips all kinds of subject matter experts really does lend itself to a healthy ecosystem. Roe Brady Design is a full-service product design and development firm. We do industrial design and product development, and for the BioFlorida sector, we specialize in medical, but we also do electric vehicles and marine, industrial products, things like solar panels. But the medical space really is where we're focusing with BioFlorida. Well, I really think that a lot of companies have needs. They have needs for products and services. And if we can connect the dots within the state of Florida, then we keep our dollars in Florida. And that's the goal here, is to make sure that we still have jobs here, and that we still have customers, and that we still have excellent suppliers. Both are really important to developing and growing business. And the networking aspect and the developing relationships that are more than just, writing a check and getting a service. It's a little bit more relationship oriented, and that's what we hope to accomplish here. Absolutely. Anytime we can keep talent in the area and pay them, the type of money that would want to keep them here, then that just helps all of the other different different parts of our economy, the housing market, anything that is needed for human beings is important. So if we can keep the talent here, then the companies can thrive and grow, and so can the rest of the economy. Well, BioFlorida has historically been a life sciences based organization and some medical device. So maybe a little bit selfishly, we would like to grow the medical device sector of BioFlorida because that applies to our business. However, life sciences isn't without need for some product development. So like I said, that's our maybe a little bit self reasons, but that helps the economy grow as well.
Well, yes, we've actually attended the main BioFlorida conference most of the years they've had it. Got to know Nancy Bryan, who's the president CEO, and she let us know that they were forming a local chapter, the Sarasota chapter, and of course this is fantastic. Just exactly what we want is a chapter here. It's a great place to network. It's a great place to find out what other companies in the area are doing, and we're learning all the time. We don't know half the companies here, and then you come to these events and you find out who's actually doing what. So it's been a great experience. Yeah, as we're a drug discovery and development company focused on anti-infectives. Our lead product is a brand new class of antibacterial. It gets over all the problems of antibiotic resistance. It's very broad. It gets over the problems of one antibiotic works for this but doesn't work for another thing. It works for everything in the bacterial infection space. And then our second tier of products are antivirals, focused on gene silencing. We silence the genes of the virus to stop it being able to replicate and spread. So we're heavily into that anti-infective space. Very much indeed. In fact, we just met one of our neighbors, neighboring companies today, and we've already discovered some great synergies that, between our products and what they're doing in a lot of areas that we can work together. Also, there's a lot of expertise here in terms of, people who've been in pharmaceutical companies, who've been in biotech companies, have come here for the lifestyle and have a lot of great expertise to offer, and we're meeting some of these people as well at the BioFlorida meetings and these EDC get-togethers that have actually been very productive. Sure, we actually were talking a little bit about that today, in that we need to sort of bring a focus to all the companies here because there's a lot more companies here than people would think. We've got to get over that sort of perception issue that Sarasota is just a vacation place. It's actually not. There's a huge medical infrastructure here. There's the perfect kind of facilities and organizations for biotech and pharmaceutical companies to be able to do clinical trials and develop their products. So we kind of see that if we can get almost like a biotech park, and that's one of the things we're talking about today, where we could, have companies in a cluster. I think that would really help the perception. I think it would bring more money into the industry, because unfortunately biotech needs a lot of investment capital. It's a lot of venture capital. I think that kind of innovation would really, really help. But I'm actually personally encouraged at how many companies there are here already and the diversity of what they're doing. And there's the cancer institutes, there's all the research institutes like Roscamp, for example, doing neurodegenerative diseases. So actually very encouraging. Well, I think, first of all, it attracts a lot of very intelligent people who are, these highly paid people who then have innovation and create more organizations. So very quickly, if you can get these sort of very innovative, very smart people coming in, not only does it improve the tax base, of course, diversifies the economy, but it actually creates a lot of spin-offs and new companies and new developments into areas that, you wouldn't even thought would occur. So I think in terms of Sarasota is a very nice, very great place to live. Well-established community, good medical stuff here. I think the move into expansion of life sciences is kind of an obvious one, and I think it's going to really help the sustain the economy. When you see some of the ups and downs in real estate, for example, tourism, that kind of that will sustain and help to level out those peaks and troughs. I think we're going to see a lot more people from the biotech community, maybe in their kind of later years, semi-retirement, moving here for lifestyle, discovering that there's a lot of interesting companies here and a lot of things that that they can do to keep their minds active and get involved. Connections, contacts, etc. We already have a few of those people working with us, and so I think we'll see more of that. I think we'll see some of the companies already here growing. We'll probably see one or two even larger companies maybe setting up a branch here. For example, we're already seeing Bristol Myers Squibb setting up their organization up in Tampa. I think we might see one or two of the larger pharma, larger biotech companies setting up some kind of operation here. And I think that'll all stimulate a growth in the community. And that's certainly what we would like to see. Because, some of the State College of Florida has taken an initiative in setting up a biotech training course, a 2-year associate degree, which I think is great. We're going to have trained people here. We're going to have great, really the right caliber of people to develop these kind of companies, and so it'd be nice to see that biotech community develop and keep them here, as opposed to being tempted off to other regions.
Well, one thing is, we've always felt kind of isolated in this field, in this area, and this is a great way to build networks to let the little companies and the companies who want to come here really know what's going on and make contacts that we're not alone, that we can share resources and things of that nature.
This has been a wonderful opportunity for us at the State College of Florida with our biotechnology program as well. We have met several corporations through BioFlorida who have partnered with us and are hiring our students. We right now have a 100% employment rate of our graduates in our program. Absolutely. I think we have a top-notch program, and our students are trained in the latest technologies, thanks to Matt bringing in the latest technologies that are available within the business.
Well, our students are motivated and they're prepared, and they're getting a real taste of what it is to work in the industry. It's not just a typical classroom situation. We give them a lot of hands-on experience, and we give them the opportunities really to grow and demonstrate their skills. Through a number of different parts of the program. And I think that's what's key of why they've been so successful so far.
Oh, absolutely. I see us becoming not only a corridor, but maybe Science Central for Florida, in that we have not only our program, but additional developing programs at USF, Sarasota Manatee, and we're partnering together so that we maintain a constant complementarity between our programs. In addition to that, these are great jobs. They're clean energy jobs, they're high-paying jobs, and the participants within these jobs are highly educated. This will be a great contribution to our economy and to our growing population.
It's a great career because you're making fundamental changes in society, whether it's improving somebody's health, improving the environment, or just discovering something we can't even imagine at this point. You're getting a taste of that with our program. So I think that's a big part of it. The other reason, or the other thing you should know is community colleges don't do this kind of work, but we are. This is like an opportunity that exists in the area that is way above and beyond anything else in Florida.
Well, as I stated before, it's an excellent, clean industry, and it affords great opportunities to our students. It attracts, it's sort of like a build it and they will come situation with biotechnology industries. Once you begin to build a core of biotech industries, scientists beget scientists almost. They like to come together to have an opportunity to interact with each other. And we now have a really good nucleus built, and I think we could see tremendous growth over the next 5 to 10 years. I anticipate seeing a very different biotechnology landscape in this area.